Good day. The name's Lotz. General Lotz. Following up on a legend is no easy task. The bar is set super high, and every little mistake counts a lot. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're looking at one such game that tried to follow up on a legend, and whether or not it succeeded, well, let's delve deep into The World Is Not Enough.
The World Is Not Enough was developed by Eurocom and published by the Great Demon Electronic Arts and released for the ultimate console of the 90s. You know it, you love it, get in or get out, the Nintendo 64 on October 17th of the year 2000. 24 years ago. The game came out a little less than a year after the movie and more or less follows the plot, but changes it up a bit to make the story more dynamic and cater to the game's style of gameplay. Now remember, I said Eurocom and not Rare, meaning that while this is a game adaptation of the direct sequel to GoldenEye the movie, this is not strictly a sequel to the GoldenEye game, since we have moved developers, so keep that in mind. What we got here, lads and lasses, is a first-person shooter, and everything you saw in GoldenEye by Rare has been updated and expanded way beyond what that game did. But is it better? We got more guns, we got more gadgets, the gameplay is a little tighter in places, but not quite as fluid or polished as to what Rare was able to create. So the shooting is a bit better, the reticle is a little more accurate, and the gun's auto-aim is a little better too. The fan-favorite watch has been updated and expanded. No longer is it the inventory, instead it has been replaced with a precursor to the smartphone. Yeah, remember the smartphone as a concept only dates back to 2007? And this precursor to the smartphone is remarkably pre-innocent. You should get a little armor for having this thing, as it's a bloody Nokia. The watch is now a weapon and a gadget. It now has a bunch of different uses. You have a laser, a tranq dart, a stunner, and a grappling hook. And these are pretty bloody well integrated into gameplay. The game introduces a jump, and it's kind of awkward, but does in fact work, and you will at times have to jump from the watch grapple to a platform, and it mostly works, although it is a bit of a leap of faith. Like in GoldenEye, you have a bunch of objectives to complete, and they vary depending upon the difficulty level. You have objectives where you gotta disarm bombs, wiretap phones illegally, blow stuff up, just all the good stuff from this era of gaming. However, not everything from the early 2000s was great. You see, the early 2000s was a time of experimentation. Devs actually were trying to make gaming more interactive and more immersive for the player, and they largely succeeded. But not every experiment worked as well as the dev might have hoped. The original GoldenEye was an FPS game through and through, with a grand total of 2 vehicle segments. Rare stuck to what worked and didn't get too creative. Eurocom wanted to push it to the limit, and they walked along the razor's edge and kinda sorta fell off in places. The World Is Not Enough has some great shooting levels that really stand out as some of the best on the N64. But then we got what I like to call the creative levels. One of the earliest creative levels has Bond on some skis, and you are always moving forward, and uh-oh, you got no cover, all the enemies are blasting you, and you even have to take down some towers. If you miss one of those towers, you go back. Then you got a level that forces you to use stealth, and you better bloody well believe all the enemies have Far Cry laser vision. You get spotted and, you guessed it, you go back. One level has a context-sensitive ledge you have to grab onto. The game never tells you this, and back in the early 2000s, this is where the game ended for me. Until the distant days of 2023, where I finally figured out that you had to hit a button to grab onto this thing. In many ways, this could have been a superior game to GoldenEye, but it's let down by too many levels that just didn't work. Now, if you're a foul youngin', I says boot up this game and have a fun Bond adventure. Just be sure to have the quick save key handy. Graphically, this is a damn good looking game. This is being played through RetroArch, and while that is helping a little bit, I gotta say, this game looks almost as good as a very early Dreamcast game. The human models are head and shoulders above what we saw in GoldenEye. The guns are very well detailed with some great reloading animations that would put some later PS2 games to shame. We actually have full cutscenes this time around, and they are animated remarkably well for this era. This was a pretty next-gen game. all on the amazing cartridge-based N64 second PlayStation. With that in mind, we got full voice acting in this bloody game. That's right, Bond speaks. In this game, Bond is voiced by Adam Blackwood. He did and was in... Yeah, he doesn't even have a profile pic on IMDb, but he did a great Pierce Brosnan impersonation. Just have a listen.
Don't hurt me. Who are you?
Bond. James Bond. Now land that plane for me.
Not bad, right? We also got some major talent as well, such as Judi Dench and John Cleese, all on a cart. Music for the game is far less memorable, as we did not have the musical talents of the legendary Grant Kirkhope, but the music is serviceable enough. Controls for the game are a little bit better than GoldenEye's and emulate well on a modern Xbox controller. A mouse injector also exists, but I was able to record the footage here by playing the game with standard controls. This game also had multiplayer just like GoldenEye, and is a bit improved in some ways compared to GoldenEye. Funny enough, I actually played this game multiplayer long before I ever played GoldenEye's, and I gotta say that despite first playing in 2009, it even held up in the days of COD. The story for The World Is Not Enough, both in-game and movie, is merely meh. It's not terrible, but it's not that great either. GoldenEye's story, both in the movie and game, is fairly straightforward. Bond's best friend turns evil and wants to use a weapons satellite to EMP blast London as revenge for the betrayal of the Lians Cossacks at the end of World War II. Oh, and steal money, I think. The World Is Not Enough, by contrast, has a terrorist named Renard, steal a nuke sub, and do terrorist things. And spoiler alert for an almost 30-year-old movie, Renard kidnaps some guy named King's daughter. The daughter is rescued by Bond, I think. King is then used to blow up MI6 for some reason, and that's how the movie starts. But in the game, you play a mission where you go to a bank to get the money and have to fight thugs. I always remember the line, privacy booth, where you get your guns and gadgets. Now, unlike in the movie, after MI6 gets blown up, Renard has a bunch of terrorists attack MI6, and when we get to what the point of all this is, you'll be even more mystified. In the movie, after MI6 gets blown up, Bond and a single henchwoman go on an absolutely magnificent boat chase, and my favorite part is when Bond goes to submarine mode and then fixes his tie. In the game, the boat crashes early, and you gotta fight more Renardists. And then, like in the movie, the random henchwoman snack bars herself. So most of the movie and most of the game is kind of a mystery that you must solve. What is Renard up to? It's all a bit convoluted, and eventually you end up in Russia, where you find a nuclear scientist named Christmas, and she is a hot babe. I kind of feel bad for the actress who played Christmas, as she wasn't given much to work with, and she was far less interesting than Natalia from the previous movie. Turns out that the King Dude's daughter named Electra was one crazy-ass bitch, and is in league with Renard. Oh dear. So apparently Renard, despite being a foul terrorist, is a simp. I don't know which one is worse. And he is in love with Electra and will do anything to please her. So here's what he's gonna do. He's going to blow up a nuke sub in the Bosphorus Straits to halt global trade so that Electra, who is already rich due to her dead dad's oil pipelines, can get even richer. Okay, as you can see, we're not quite as good as GoldenEye here. I mean, this plot is pretty weak, and most of the time it seems like they were pulling it out of their asses to get Bond to the next awesome action set piece. It's not terrible by any means, but it's still not quite as memorable as what we got from GoldenEye, the game, and the movie. Me mom purchased this game for me back when I was 11 years old, and there's a good chance I might not have ever even heard of this game until I became an adult, but for one random event. See, one day me and me mom were out, and we just so happened to find a random local game shop. We went in, and my mother jokingly said, "He wants to play Sonic." Now, I was 11 years old, and when you're 11 years old, you certainly don't admit to liking the Sanics, because that's a game for kids. How times change. At age 35, as of this recording, I love me some Sanics, to say the least. Well, anyway, we just so happened to find The World Is Not Enough, and as you might imagine, we snapped it up. What's kind of funny is that game was expensive back then. We got just the bare cartridge, and that was $29.99. Needless to say, it was worth every penny, and I still have that awesome blue cartridge to this very day.
If you got turned off by some of the jank back in the old days, I recommend giving it a try today. Just be sure to use plenty of save states. And so, I am Lotz, General Lotz, wishing you good from Russia with love, and good Nightfire, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.